Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody. This is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. And thank you guys so much for joining. Today is a pretty special one because yesterday I didn't get a chance to do this, but since WWE is still bringing NXT to Houston, Texas tonight, I thought it'd be fair if I come on and give you what I meant to do earlier, which is my top 10 favorite matches from the city of Houston in the state of Texas. Before I get started with that, I just want to say I hope everyone who is from the state of Texas is doing okay and has survived the floods. My condolences for anyone who has been affected by that. And also my condolences to the family, friends, and fans of the late star Malcolm Jamal Warner, who recently passed. I'm totally surprised by that. My thoughts and prayers are with the family and friends, as well as fans. For those of you who watched, some of you remember, if you watched UPN back in the day, you know that, especially on Thursdays when we watched WWE SmackDown on UPN, you probably remember when Malcolm and Eddie used to come on at 10 p.m. For those of us who lived on the East Coast, he would come on right after SmackDown because he came on weekdays at 10. That's how I remember. So for those of us who grew up during the era of the iconic fists on SmackDown, you remember they used to come on at 10. So my thoughts and prayers are with the family at this time. For now, let's get started with the review of my top 10 favorite matches from Houston, Texas. San Antonio and Dallas are already up, but let's go to Houston. Now, we're going to start this off with, at number 10, we have Triple H versus Kevin Nash at Bad Blood 2003, Hell in a Cell, with Mick Foley as the special guest referee for the World Heavyweight Championship. Mick Foley was the ref because all the referees were afraid to do this, especially with Tim White, God rest his soul, being injured in 2002. And of course, Triple H abusing all the referees at the time, including Hugh Hefner. No. What's Earl Hebner? Brian Hebner is the son. I believe Earl Hebner is the father. Brian Hebner is the son. I get all the darn Hebners mixed up. Please excuse me. So this was brutal. We saw 2x4s, steel steps. Triple H and Mick Foley even fought after Triple H provoked Foley with a chair shot. But in the end, Triple H was able to win the match with a sledgehammer and a pedigree to retain his World Heavyweight Championship against former friend Kevin Nash. Next at number 9, we have Shield versus New Day. Shield members, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Jon Moxley taking on New Day's Kofi Kingston, Big E, and Xavier Woods. This was a SmackDown versus Raw match in 2017 Survivor Series, and it was a great opening for the event. And both teams, New Day for SmackDown, Shield for Raw, they did not disappoint. However, it is well appreciated, considering how they would go heel, that the Shield triple powerbombed Kofi Kingston from the second rope for the win. And I appreciate it now that Kofi Kingston has gone villain. Speaking of tag teams, we go to number 8. We have at Worlds Collide 2020 NXT's UK Mustache Mountain versus NXT Black and Gold America's DIY, which consists of Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. This match was awesome. It did not disappoint at all. Two teams with no hatred but respect for each other, competing in the name of NXT brand supremacy between NXT America and NXT Europe. Of course, this match belongs to DIY of NXT America. They would show sportsmanship at the end, but this was one of the first of a couple great matches at Worlds Collide that year. Next at number 7, we have The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 17 from the Houston Astrodome. This match was for the WWE Championship. Both men were made to be fan favorites and were two of some of the top guys of the Attitude Era. The second half of the main event was Triple H versus The Undertaker, but this was the main event. The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWE Championship. And because The Rock was in the state of Texas, The Rock was not as favored by the fans as Steve Austin was. And however, The Rock would still have his fans and supporters. And The Rock would have more supporters when we found out that Vince McMahon, that old freak Vince McMahon, would align himself with Stone Cold Steve Austin in a match that would see Jim Ross in the Call of the Year. To me, this match will go down in history as a great match with a kayfabe controversial ending. And Jim Ross sold it perfectly. By God, this Stone Cold has sold his soul to Satan himself. For the love of God, someone tell me this is not happening. That was an excellent call by Jim Ross. The match itself was great, but it was controversial with Stone Cold joining forces with Satan himself. Almost literally, because now that we know what we know about Vince. Next on this list at number 6, we have Brock Lesnar versus AJ Styles. Back to Survivor Series 2017 in Houston, Texas. This was the main event of Survivor Series SmackDown versus Raw. Brock Lesnar being Raw's Universal Champion, AJ Styles being SmackDown's WWE Champion. This match on paper was a mismatch. However, this was AJ Styles. He hung with the beast incarnate. And there were moments where we thought AJ Styles could actually get the job done. However, not to anyone's surprise, Brock Lesnar would win this match clean. And both men were actually fan favorites. And both men were actually face. However, in the end, it was Brock Lesnar who would win the match for Raw supremacy and become the guy who helped win. It wasn't the main event, the Survivor Series traditional tag match was the main event because Braun Strowman and Triple H went at it later. Next on this list, we go back to Worlds Collide at number 5. We have Undisputed Era versus Imperium. Before I go with the Undisputed Era Imperium review, I would like to send my deepest thoughts and prayers with Adam Cole. I hope that he is successful in battling whatever health problems he has, and I pray that he gets well soon. Adam Cole, baby. Of course, this match was NXT America Undisputed Era, led by Adam Cole, versus NXT UK with Imperium's leader, now World Heavyweight Champion Gunther, then known as Walter, led the team. And Walter led his team to victory with a 3-on-4 disadvantage, with Alexander Wolf being injured. Fun fact, Alexander has been a part of UK and NXT's Sanity. But nonetheless, with a 3-4 advantage, Gunther, now as he's known, would lead his team to victory at the main event of Worlds Collide, Houston, Texas, 2020. Next at number 4, we go 24 hours in time to one of the most bittersweet Sundays ever. The reason why I say this was the most bittersweet Sunday ever was because that day we lost a great basketball player and a great man in the name of Kobe Bryant in a plane crash that took the whole world by shock. However, that night, the reason it was so bittersweet was because we lost Kobe Bryant that day. However, at number four, being the 2020 Men's Royal Rumble, was the night we would see the return of the rated R superstar Edge, now known in AEW as Adam Copeland. Of course, this match started with Brock Lesnar breaking Kane, Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman's record of most eliminations because he single handedly threw out the first 10, 12 people all at one time. But thanks to a low blow by Ricochet and Drew McIntyre, Claymore kick, Drew McIntyre was the eventual winner of the match and would go on to face Brock Lesnar for the championship and win. Brock Lesnar was eliminated, which set up for us to have an interesting Royal Rumble, which would see the return of Edge. And even though Edge didn't win the match, Drew McIntyre won. The spotlight was on the return of Edge. Now we go to back. The next two matches have taken place at WrestleMania 17. And at number 3, we have Kurt Angle versus Chris Benoit. Due to circumstances surrounding 2007, WWE will never officially acknowledge Chris Benoit. However, we have to acknowledge, because I am independent and I'm not under anyone, that, hold on, this match was all about competition. You had two great technical wrestlers who were the same height. And of course, sometimes The Undertaker talks about how sometimes the big guy versus the small guy makes for great matches. And with him, it really does. But it also has to be said that sometimes the small guys, people under 6 feet, can work really well together. And this was one of those under 6 feet and under great wrestlers. They were excellent technical guys. And of course, every time they get together, they make magic together. Kurt Angle always says, unofficially, however, that Chris Benoit was one of his greatest rivals as far as competition was concerned. This match at WrestleMania did not disappoint at all. Obviously, great technical skills were on display. We saw Kurt Angle high fly, do a moonsault, which he doesn't do often because most of the time it doesn't work. And we saw submission holds as well as crossface angle locks. But Kurt Angle, being the dirty heel that he was at the time, used the ropes for leverage and got the roll-up pinfall over Chris Benoit in what was an amazing match. I encourage you to watch it. Next on this list, another match that took place at WrestleMania 17 was the triple threat TLC tag match between Edge and Christian, who halfway reunited at All In Texas, the Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff, and the Dudley Boys. By the way, I heard that the Dudley Boys challenged the Hardy Boys one more match at this year's Bound for Glory, so I'd love to see how that goes. But in the meantime, let's talk about the triple threat match. It was awesome, filled with highlights left and right. However, the most talked about highlight was Edge spearing Jeff Hardy off the top from a 20-foot ladder, as Jeff Hardy tried to hang on to the championship belts, hoping to get it. Ironically, just like the previous year, the Dudley Boys were the tag team champions, and just like that year, Edge and Christian would win back the tag team championships, this time with help from the man beast, Rhino, with Gore. Of course, let's go to number 1. Number 1 on this list, WrestleMania 25. You already know what it is. WrestleMania 25, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. This match should have been the main event. However, it was the next year. But this match was voted match of the year 2009. This match was also voted best WrestleMania match ever to many. And this match, it didn't disappoint. Undertaker was undefeated. By the way, both entrances were awesome. Shawn Michaels with his heavenly entrance, paying homage to his true life faith. Undertaker with his dark entrance. Ironically, however, most people, well, everyone knows this now, but some people would be surprised to know that The Undertaker is a man of faith. You can thank Michelle McCool for that. Although The Undertaker's testimony of how he found God was hilarious. The man said he was afraid that if he stepped into a church, that it was going to be an earthquake. It was hilarious. But nonetheless, both men are actually men of faith, but this is light and darkness. And this match did not disappoint. One of my favorite highlights was when The Undertaker went for the tombstone and Shawn Michaels, this is one of my favorite dramatic kickouts, was when The Undertaker went for the tombstone, Shawn Michaels kicked out, and the look on The Undertaker's face became a meme with the amazement of the crowd and Jim Ross having an outer body experience. This match and that moment itself was pure cinema to me. However, in the end, I thought something flew by me, excuse me. But in the end, Shawn Michaels, with his best efforts, the moonsault would be countered by another tombstone. The Undertaker remains what I believe to be 17, ironically 17. We are on our 17th minute, and The Undertaker is 17-0. Oh, the irony of that. But that's my top 10 favorite matches from Houston, Texas. Let me know which match was your favorite. I'm your host, Dan Cody. I'll see you tonight, if fate willing, for NXT. Have a great day, everyone.